were granted a 5th year of eligibility around the country in multiple sports. And through them winning their injunction and entry into the portal, they're available to recruit. And so ourselves, like many places around the country, are recruiting them. And at the end of the day, because of these rulings, they're either going to play for you or they're going to play somewhere else around the country. So we've made a decision to recruit them, like probably most people are.
Meanwhile, the SEC released a strong statement yesterday that reads, in part, college athletes, not former professional athletes, have been at the heart of the Southeastern Conference. Individuals who choose to leave college athletics to sign professionally, playing contracts, and compete professionally should not then be permitted to return to college competition, end quote. And there is more. Breaking news this morning from our ESPN college sports insider, Pete Thamel. He writes, sources, the Big Ten is set to pass a rule today that doesn't allow players to return from the NFL and play for a Big Ten school. Anyone who has declared for the NFL draft and did not withdraw, appeared on an NFL roster, signed a contract with a pro league, cannot be on a Big Ten roster. Okay, in short, here's what we have here. This breaking news. The Big Ten is saying, we don't like it, we're not going to allow it. The SEC is saying, we don't like it. We're not going to allow it. Paul, your reaction to all of this that's just coming in fast and furious this morning.
Well, the Big Ten has won another national championship today because they got it right, even though we haven't officially heard from them yet. I have no doubt the Southeastern Conference will do it the same thing. But why did they issue that boilerplate statement last night when everyone was waiting for some direction? It's very simple. We don't allow it. We're not going to permit it. And if you do it, and we're talking to you, Lane Kiffin, primarily, we're going to take punitive action. What does that mean? That means fines, which won't affect anything because LSU is their own nation down there. They don't care what anybody else is doing, and they have all the money they can apparently get because they have a $50+ million roster. But they could threaten Lane Kiffin with suspension. They could threaten the school with forfeiture, and I have no doubt that they will act today, but I think they missed the boat last night. The Big Ten leaked that story, clearly knowing what was happening around college football today, and that's the statement you make. Now, whether you can back that up, whether you'll litigate it, of course, that will happen, but I like what the Big Ten has done, and I do not like the SEC issuing a statement. And at the very end of the statement, Evan, they put in a plug for the United States Senate to do their job, which they have been unable to effectively do now. And I'm talking about the entire world of college athletics for about the last 15 years.
Bug?
I like what the Big Ten did because they came out and made a stand. And I think we were all waiting for the SEC to make a stand. The SEC basically said, hey, we don't like it. Pro guys shouldn't be in college, which I think we all agree. We all agree that pro players shouldn't be playing college football. And on top of that, let's also realize that this is a very individualized anomaly. This is not going to happen going forward, but this is the class of 22 trying to get their 5 for 5, so to speak, because going forward, everybody gets 5 for 5. So let's understand where we are and why we're here. This is not going to happen next year. This is not going to happen the year after that. This is an isolated case that's going to take place right now for 15 or 20 players for the class of 22. So now that we have that out of the way, the Big Ten has said their piece. The SEC said their piece. Maybe they'll come back and change the rule. I don't know. But here's what I'll say. If you're a college coach like Lane Kiffin or anybody else, the object is to put the best roster on the field. You got to follow the rules. And if the rules state that you can recruit these guys, I'm with Lane. Why not recruit them? Don't beat Lane Kiffin up because there's no rules and he's pushing the limit of what he can do with his roster. So I understand he's a lightning rod. I understand some of the things that he said going from Ole Miss to LSU. But this one is not on Lane Kiffin. This one is on leadership, whether that's the SEC, whether that's the NCAA, whether that's Congress. If the rules are in place, I have a good idea that these coaches will follow the rules. They will do what's right. But if there is no rule in this one isolated case that says the class of 22 can get their 5 for 5, then I have no problem with what LSU and Lane Kiffin are doing. Texas has a guy who has been in a mini camp. So these people are pushing the limits. If you want to stop it, do what the Big Ten did. SEC, come out and pass a rule and say we're done with it, and let's move on with the college football season.
Boog, the problem is that's not going to stop it, right? I mean, the Big Ten can come out and do this, but this is about to be like an episode of Oprah. You get a lawsuit, you get a lawsuit, you get a lawsuit. You think these kids aren't going to now sue the conferences as well? This is an eligibility issue, and I am firmly in the corner of the players here because the goalposts continue to move. Don't hate the player, hate the game. The game is that college has tried to really use these players in an amateur status, and that's not what college football is anymore. They're getting paid. They're professionals. You don't want this to happen? Call them employees so you can actually unionize and you can negotiate. But the problem here is two things. The first, the SEC in their statement said these players chose to go to the NFL. No, they didn't. They played 4 years, and they were told they had no more eligibility, and then a few months later, the goalpost got moved. And they said, wait a minute, if we would have known you had 5 for 5, we wouldn't have gone to the NFL. So that's the caveat there. They didn't choose. They were told their eligibility had expired, and they sued to prove that, hey, we should get that 5th year as well. You moved the goalposts just a few days after our eligibility was gone. So I'm full with the players in this standpoint. And to Boog's point, this is an isolated incident. It's not going to happen in years to come. This is an incident that these players should be allowed to play, and it should force not just the conferences to go, oh, well, now we're going to punish you're not allowed to play, but actually realize this is a professional sport. This is not an amateur sport anymore, and you should treat it as such.
I think to Boog's point, the same way, Jordan, you're talking about those players is the same way that Boog is talking about Lane Kiffin. You're not mad at the players for realizing that, hey, I have an opportunity to go back to college and not only one, play a sport that I love, that I grew up playing, but two, be compensated probably more at LSU than I would have been compensated with the Cleveland Browns. So I'm not mad at Daquan Wright for taking advantage of it, but I think the point of this, all of it, is that it's foolish to say that a player is going to be in training camp, potentially playing in a preseason game, dressed in a Cleveland Browns uniform, warming up, doing the things that you're doing to get ready for a game, and then now enrolling at LSU, whose class has already started. I think in all of this, you're starting to look at this and you're saying, well, how does it all work? Daniel Lanning talked about the fact that your roster's in college. To be able to bring another player in, you have to let go of a guy that was on your roster who busted his butt all throughout spring and throughout training camp, and now is being told that you're no longer on our team because we're going to grab a guy that has been in training camp learning from professionals for months in OTAs and all the things of that nature. I think that's the problem with all of it. I'm not mad at the players, but when you look at the totality of it all, for the NCAA and for everyone involved, these are smart people that are in their roles. When you come up with these rules and you have the 5 for 5, when you decide to pay players, all of these things, did no one look at what the possibility and the repercussions were going to be that came after it? Instead of being so reactive and having to issue statements and come out and say, we're not going to allow these players, or we're accepting it, we're going to ask for help from Congress. Some of these things should have been thought about and been in place when these rules came out.
The bottom line is that everyone is right about these issues, but the real problem remains the people that run the sport because they keep looking for someone else other than themselves. They should be trying to work this out. I have no doubt Greg Sankey of the SEC has let Lane Kiffin know this is not permissible, and Lane Kiffin hung up the phone, I'm guessing here, and just probably started laughing because he knows he can get away with it. I mean, he's at a university right now that anything goes. You've got a governor of the state of Louisiana who's essentially calling the shots. You got boosters meeting at the governor's mansion. You got a $50 million roster. School started this week. You're out there picking off scrubs from NFL training camps, and we're all sitting here worried about what the next statement is going to ring. None of these statements are really going to matter in the end until college administrators admit that these are no longer quote-unquote student athletes. They want to shove that down our throat until we want to vomit, and I'm sick of it. I think everyone's sick of it. And then, again, you said it, let's go to Congress. The Senate comes back in 3 weeks, and we're going to all be up there going, hey, make our jobs easier. Congress doesn't make anybody's jobs easier. If you're going to give the keys to the college football kingdom to Ted Cruz, then there won't be any football left because he'll be in charge, and he'll use that as part of his campaign structure to run for president, which he alluded to today that he's going to do. That's what this is all about. Let's not kid ourselves. Ted Cruz wants to be the next president. I don't care who the next president is, but I want somebody to take charge of college football, and right now, I think the four of us could do a much better job than the people doing it.
I think the pushback of this is kind of what we just talked about, that you're going from an NFL organization, you were on the field with an NFL team, to now back to college, as if there's some delineation between the two. There's not anymore. And that's the thing. It used to be professional and amateurism. That's not anything anymore. So that kind of argument as to why they shouldn't be allowed to bounce back and forth, I think to me is moot. The thing is, these players are going to play. There are now going to be lawsuits against the Big Ten, and if the SEC follows suit, there are going to be lawsuits against them. You get a restraining order, and these players are going to be on the field. This is just kicking the can down the road. It doesn't do anything, in my opinion. Again, like a show of Oprah, everyone's getting a lawsuit. It's an Uno reverse card, and we're going to move on, and I think these players are still going to play.
And also, let's not lose the fact of this. The Big Ten comes out realizing that this is an isolated case, and this is only going to happen this year based on the class of 22. But I love how the Big Ten kind of grandstood a little bit and said, hey, look at us. We are the moral conference of righteousness here. Think about that, Paul Finebaum. The Big Ten is standing up and trying to beat the SEC again. Don't let that little nugget slip by you with what happened today, because they didn't have to do that, but they wanted to come out and get their last little bit of glory as we go into the football season. Paul Finebaum, you saw that, you see it, and I know you didn't mention it, but I think we're all thinking about it.
Well, one more thing. This is the same conference who let Jim Harbaugh cheat his way to a national championship a couple years ago, and now they're being high and mighty. You're 100% right, Boog. It's ridiculous. I mean, every day there's you guys said something really interesting. We won't have this issue a year from today. We'll have 100 more.
Yeah.
Well, does this mean it's going well or going poorly? When Ted Cruz, Oprah, the game of Uno, and Lane Kiffin are all mentioned in the same block of television, I think we're doing something right here. I think the SEC and Big Ten are probably doing something wrong. But yes, Ted Cruz, Oprah, Uno, and Lane Kiffin. Shout out to all of you.
Good start.
Yeah. Good.